One phone call. 1:44 in the morning, made to Nancy Guthrie's phone, 3 minutes before a masked man appeared at her doorbell camera and disabled it. 3 minutes before the 41-minute window that has defined this entire investigation began. When FBI analysts traced that final communication on Nancy's device, the very last call ever made on that phone before it was left behind on her kitchen counter and never used again, what they found pointed straight at someone who had been inside Nancy Guthrie's life, someone who knew her. 3 minutes later, the camera went dark. That is not a coincidence. That is a starting gun. And this is Case File 020. Subscribe to Evidence True Crime TV right now and hit the bell, because this phone call is the most underreported detail in the entire Nancy Guthrie investigation. And by the end of this video, you will understand why it may be the first line of the indictment. Stay with me. Before we go into the evidence, I need to stop. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is a mother, a grandmother, a woman who spent January 31st at dinner with her family, came home to her house in the Catalina foothills, and was taken in the night. A woman whose final phone call before she disappeared was made by someone she trusted enough to answer at 1:44 in the morning. If you are a person of faith, please say a prayer for Nancy Guthrie right now. Pray that she is found. Pray that whoever made that call is identified and held accountable. Pray for her family, who have been living inside this silence for 72 days. Amen. I want you to type Amen. And if prayer is not your practice, hold her in your thoughts, because every detail in this video exists for one reason: her. Let Nancy's family see that this community has not moved on. Let me explain what the FBI gets when they subpoena phone records in a federal kidnapping case, because people underestimate how much information is embedded in a single call. It is not just a list of numbers. It is a comprehensive forensic picture of every communication event that device was involved in. Every call, every text, every data transmission, time-stamped to the second. And for each call, the originating number, the receiving number, the duration, and the cell tower data that shows the approximate geographical location of both devices at the time of the call. In a metro area like Tucson, cell tower triangulation can place a device within a few hundred meters of its actual location, sometimes more precisely than that. This means when investigators identified the 1:44 a.m. call on Nancy's phone, they did not just identify who called her, they identified where that person was when they made the call. That geographic location, combined with the identity of the caller, is what investigators have been sitting on for 72 days. When investigators isolated that final communication at 1:44, they did not just identify a number, they identified a location, a person, and a connection to the evening that preceded it. In about 60 seconds, I am going to walk you through what that 3-minute sequence actually looks like when you lay it out precisely. Stay with me. Here is the sequence, precisely. 1:44 a.m. The phone call is made to Nancy's device. Whatever the content, whether it was answered, whether it conveyed information, or was a signal of some kind, it happens at this precise moment, while Nancy is inside her home, while someone coordinating the operation is somewhere in the vicinity of the Catalina foothills. 1:47 a.m., 3 minutes later. The masked figure appears at Nancy's doorbell camera and disables it. Not 3 hours later, not 3 days later, 3 minutes after that call. Think about what that means operationally. In any organized operation, a communication 3 minutes before execution serves a specific purpose. It is either a final confirmation that the target is in position, a signal that the window is open,
or an attempt to verify something about the situation inside the house before proceeding. If you are about to approach someone's home and disable their security camera, what would you want to know 3 minutes before you do it? You would want to know that the person inside is where you expect them to be, that nothing has changed, that the plan is still executable. A phone call at 1:44 a.m. to the person inside the house is exactly that, a check, a confirmation, a starting gun. 3 minutes later, the operation began. I am not going to give you a name. I am going to give you a profile, a set of characteristics that the evidence requires this person to have, because understanding who could have made this call is central to understanding who took Nancy Guthrie. First characteristic: access to Nancy's personal cell phone number. Nancy Guthrie's private number is not in a public directory. It is shared with family, close friends, medical providers, and people in her immediate personal circle. Whoever called at 1:44 a.m. had that number. Second characteristic: knowledge of Nancy's location at that specific moment. At 1:44 in the morning, Nancy was inside her home alone. The only people who knew with certainty that she was home and alone at that hour were people who knew her routine, people who knew Tommaso had dropped her off at 9:50 p.m., people who knew she would have no other visitors overnight. Third characteristic: timing precision. The call was made 3 minutes before the camera was disabled. That precision suggests either direct coordination with the person who disabled the camera, or that the caller is the person who disabled the camera. In either scenario, the caller had operational awareness of what was about to happen. Fourth characteristic: connection to the events of January 31st. Investigative reporting has indicated that the final communication on Nancy's phone led back to someone who had been inside her life, someone connected to the evening's events, someone who had been at that dinner, or connected to someone who had been just hours before. Put those four together: someone with Nancy's private number, someone who knew she was home alone at 1:44 a.m., someone with operational awareness of the abduction, someone connected to the events of January 31st. That circle is not large. Put those four characteristics together and you have a circle that is not large. In about 60 seconds, I am going to show you the other evidence threads that connect to this call and make it even harder to dismiss. Stay with me. Stay right here, because what comes next connects the phone call to evidence threads this community has been following for weeks. If this investigation, the kind of analysis that goes deeper than any headline, matters to you, subscribe to Evidence True Crime TV, hit like, and type Amen in the comments for Nancy. The next section changes the picture completely. The phone call at 1:44 a.m. does not stand alone. It sits inside a web of other evidence that this investigation has been quietly assembling, and each thread connects to it directly. The Internet outage. In early March, FBI investigators knocked on doors in Nancy's neighborhood, asking about a mysterious Internet disruption on the night of January 31st into February 1st. Several residents reported that their Ring camera footage from that night was simply missing, not corrupted, missing. If someone engineered that disruption deliberately, they created simultaneous gaps in the surveillance record from multiple properties. That is not improvisation. That is counter-surveillance. That is planning. The Ring camera, 5 miles away. At 1:52 a.m., 8 minutes after Nancy's camera was disabled, a Ring camera located 5 miles from her property captured a man wearing backpacks attempting to open a locked gate. 5 miles in 8 minutes, in a vehicle, in a residential area at 2 in the morning with no traffic. That is a person moving away from the scene with purpose. And that person was wearing backpacks, consistent with the individual captured on Nancy's doorbell camera 3 minutes after the 1:44 a.m. call. The phone left behind. Nancy's phone was left on the counter. The device that received the 1:44 a.m. call was recovered intact by investigators on February 1st. The call records on that phone are preserved. The FBI has had them since day one. The number that made that call has been known to investigators since the beginning, which means the question is not whether investigators know who called. They know. The question is what they are building around that knowledge. And the blood on the porch. Dried blood on Nancy's front porch, the front entrance, the same area where the masked figure appeared at 1:47 a.m., 3 minutes after the call. Whatever caused that blood happened in the immediate vicinity of the camera, in the same sequence: phone call, camera disabled, physical confrontation at the entrance, removal from the property. That is a phased operation, beginning, middle, end. And the 1:44 call is the moment someone decided to start the clock. 72 days, no arrest, no named suspect, and the FBI has said nothing publicly about the 1:44 a.m. call. That silence is not failure. In major federal kidnapping cases involving complex conspiracy charges and international dimensions, the timeline between evidence collection and arrest is long, by design. The FBI does not move when they have enough to be confident. They move when they have enough to guarantee a conviction that holds through appeal. Those are very different standards. The 1:44 a.m. call is a documented, time-stamped, carrier record-preserved overt act in furtherance of a conspiracy. If the person who made that call can be connected to the planning of the abduction, through their relationship with Nancy, through their geographic location at the time of the call, through any subsequent communications with the person who physically executed the abduction, that call becomes the evidentiary cornerstone of a federal conspiracy charge. This is why the FBI has been silent on this specific detail for 72 days. Not because they do not know about it. They have known about it since the moment they got the phone. It is because they are building the legal architecture around it. Every other piece of evidence, the DNA, the Bitcoin trail, the Sonora connection, the Ring camera footage, all of it being organized around this one central time-stamped event. When the arrest comes, and it will come, trace it back. Follow the thread backward, and it will lead you to 1:44 a.m., 3 minutes before the camera went dark. One phone call that was supposed to be untraceable. It was not.
Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is still missing. Her family is still waiting. And somewhere inside the FBI's evidence file, the phone that received that call is still in their possession. The record survived. The number is known. And the investigation is still moving. If you have any information related to this case, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or visit tips.fbi.gov. The reward is over $1.2 million. Every detail matters. Before you go, 3 things. 1. Subscribe to Evidence True Crime TV. 2. Like this video. 3. Drop your answers in the comments. Type Amen for Nancy first. Then tell me, what do you think the 1:44 call was? A confirmation? A signal? A check on whether she was awake? And when the arrest comes, do you think this call will be in the first paragraph of the indictment? Type Amen, subscribe, and stay with this case, because the thread leads somewhere, and we will follow it. We will keep watching. We will keep reporting. And Nancy Guthrie is not forgotten.